In the wild. My name is Kei Tyler, and we are talking evolutionary astrology for this week. Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for tuning in on this special day, the day right before midnight hits and we start a new calendar year. It's a good time to assess where we are in the chart and to see how these next few days are going to help us plan in a better way and help us really step into the leadership we want to see for ourselves this year. Happy New Year to us all. I wanted to really touch on some of the important aspects of the next couple days, not just the new year, because today you could be really solidifying some different things as you get ready for your party, as you get ready for restitution and relaxation, depending on how you spend your New Year's Day. It's a really good day of seeding very grounded approaches to how you want to do things, and knowing that getting there is going to take some time. And so giving yourself the space to not need to rush into anything quite yet. Because maybe now isn't the time to actually see the full picture. And if you give yourself a couple more days to see the full picture, you'll be able to make a way better informed decision. So before you start writing all of these goals, think about maybe simplifying these goals. So if your idea is to get completely healthy and quit all of the things, I suggest maybe focusing on the one thing and allowing yourself to whittle down as you narrow your focus on one particular thing. So if your idea is to, have a healthier BMI, or you want to reduce something in your life that's kind of taking up too much time, such as like maybe a bad habit or a relationship that kind of doesn't deserve your time anymore. The idea is to really just narrow your focus on how you'll do and how you'll live your life so that you can kind of make that come true. And that can kind of take off some of the pressure. So this is Evolutionary Astrology for December 30th through January 4th. I see it as a ritual of money, discipline, and restructure. The ritual of money is really getting clear about how you spend it, how you nurture it, how you save it, how you stack it, the discipline that it takes to keep yourself there, and to create a more sustainable bank account, one that's not always fluctuating from 0 to however much you have in there. You really want it to stay stable and in a certain kind of way. And so the discipline that's needed to not buy a bunch of material possessions is important. And I'll show you why that now is not even a good time to spend all you have. It's important to pull back so that you can utilize these funds later. When we think about Capricorn and Capricorn season, it's cold, it's rainy, it's wintry, it's snowy in some areas, depending on where you are in the world. So you have to think about not utilizing everything all at once, because you still have to get through January and February and March before spring comes, right? So preparing yourself for the winter, preparing yourself for the long haul is the object of the game. I really wanted to focus on one particular person, Steve Jobs, because at the moment I am searching for an Apple computer, and I find it interesting that it's taken me this long to venture down the road of Apple electronics, because I've been PC for so long, right? So I see PC as Pluto and Capricorn. We're getting ready to leave that, where there was some really hard structure created around the way that we do things, the way we open and close files, the way that we're creative with machines. And Steve Jobs came along and created something quite different. And not that he was a Pluto in Aquarius by any means, because we're just coming upon that, but he really does kind of resemble what it might look like to embody this new leadership that we're wanting to step into. This is actually part of one of the campaigns that he had. And he says, here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and square holes, the ones who are seeing things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they do not have respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. It's a beautiful phrase for what all of this energy is encapsulating. I don't know if you can see yourself in any of this paragraph, but this is the Aquarian energy we're stepping into. It's very Aquarian for pushing the human race forward and being the ones to break the rules so that you can raise above the status quo. He had a Venus and North Node in Capricorn, and he had Mercury in Aquarius. So he had these dueling energies in his chart. I wanted to pull his chart up for you. So here it might look like a lot of crazy to any of you who don't look at astrology in this way, but to look at this, he is a sun in Pisces. So he really is the type of sun who is purposed to bring something to the global scene, to make it large for everyone to benefit from. And so his words are encapsulated in the Aquarian message of the higher mind and using our creativity to elevate living standards, whether it's different ways of earning money or different ways of showing our creative venture. That is what he was really trying to create structure with. And that Venus and North Node in Capricorn in the fourth house, he really did put a lot of emphasis in starting from the beginning and creating a product that will stand the test of time. And I wanted to point to an article that I found on CNN Business about how to live and die like Steve Jobs. He was quite a remarkable man, whether you believe in his products or his message or any of the other things that came out after he passed away. I think the most important part is to just kind of look at how this individual lived their lives and what the energies that we're walking into in this new year are carrying, which is the energy of a soul like this. So he really wanted to emphasize how to be rich. And despite his financial success, he was a frugal man. And he says, I did not want to live that nutso lavish lifestyle so so many people do when they get rich. As a result, his home wasn't particularly huge, and he was famously embraced as a minimalist. Now, you might have to consider moving into this new year and being fiscally and financially responsible with being a minimalist and minimizing the things that you take in and the things that you expend. And it can be as simple as how to dress. Steve's frugality showed in his simple wardrobe, a pair of jeans and a black turtleneck. I heard a lot of people saying that this was his uniform. If you didn't have to consider what you wore every day, could you then use that brain power in order to fuel something creatively for yourself or strategically come up with a new strategy for how to get up in the morning and how to work out. And so yeah, he was even so responsible with the things that he bought, because of where he lived and the way that he liked to live his life. He tolerated freezing cold temperatures in a place because he knew he wouldn't wear it again. He knew he wouldn't waste his money, his hard-earned money, on something that he would not use. And that's one of the important factors. So when you consider your style of clothes, your dress, for some of you, you might be able to adopt, a capsule wardrobe where you have just a couple shirts and a couple pairs of pants, and you just kind of rotate between these really simple forms of just keeping things condensed, so that you can kind of simplify your daily process and how much money, time, and effort goes into dressing your body. How to handle authority. Jobs questioned authority his entire life, even choosing to drive without license plates. He said when he was asked why he didn't have license plates, he replied, it was for privacy reasons. And on how to die, there's some really good things in what he said about this. It was in one of his commencement speeches in 2005 for Stanford University. He says, remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You're already naked. And so, if it's always a matter of whether you should or shouldn't do it, if you know that the worst that can happen is death, and if that's not the end result of what you're going to do, maybe you should consider it. Okay, let's move on. So, Steve Jobs, do a little research, watch the movie about him. Maybe you need some of that creative spirit and to see what it looks like to have that tenacity and drive towards making your thing a thing, and doing and sacrificing whatever it might take to get there. And that the sacrifice doesn't really look like loss. What it looks like is focus. What it looks like is knowing where you're going. So Venus in Aquarius is coming to us January 2nd, 3rd, depending on where you are in the world. And I wanted to bring some key thoughts to this. So right after the New Year's Day, when we're moving into Monday and such, I wanted to give a little food for thought about what might change in the values. So finding value in higher mental perspectives and using your intellect to raise yourself and others. So these might be key themes as you work through the new energy, and really trying to move that stagnation out. It's a new life, it's a new year, it's a new me, that repertoire. Groups that represent leadership, not the old paradigm of one infallible leader. There are a lot of leaders who are being snuffed out, they're being exposed. And what is taking its place is primarily more than one person taking their place. People think that multitasking and doing all of the things and being the only one to know a thing is the most valuable. But really, being a great leader is being able to teach a group of people what you do so that when you step away, the job still gets done. And so those types of groups are going to be implemented moving forward in a lot of these corporations and these schools and these different structures that no longer work. They're leaving it to one person in order to activate a whole slew of people. It's just, people are not going to identify with that right now and are changing their value systems in order to meet the bigger picture, more than just personal succession. So you're going to be moving from the material or the physical representations of success. So, you might be thinking about what constitutes success in your life, whether it be a raise at your job or being recognized at home for a particular task. If you achieve those things, would that actually be a success in your life? And if it's not, then it would be really good to start creating ideas around what that looks like. So if you're like, I don't want to be identified by a paycheck, okay, and then what do you want to be identified as or by? Or if you had nothing to take care of, if you had nothing to keep you stable in this place that you're in the place that you work, in the place that you live, responsibility to family, if all of those things didn't exist, where would you be and what would you value? And not that any of those things need to change now, but that's kind of how you peel away so that you can understand what your core motivations are personally. You're going to be finding leaders that have higher perspectives and bring refined processes and ideas. So it's going to be a lot more focused and centered on education and looking for people who have that intellect to change your mind and to help elevate where you are. I know a lot of people who feel stuck right now. They feel uncertain. They feel unsure about where they're going to go. But having a leader or having someone that you respect that can bring some logical sense to the way that you've been feeling and the weight of the change would be good. Mentorship is great. Mentorship is a really beautiful thing to maybe start considering, or even just taking a workshop, or they have so many free classes that you can take to work through some of the things, the blockages and breakthroughs. And lastly, I just wanted to add that there's more to life than stuff. I know you all know it, but it's an important thing to tap into because a lot of people are dealing with stuff and what to do with that stuff. So this Venus in Aquarius will be activating Saturn, that's currently in the sign of Aquarius, the 11th house in anyone's chart, and the sign of Leo. So if you're an Aquarius or Leo, you're going to be feeling these changes very rapidly, maybe more so than your counterpart. So Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, and it is adding to this mental process of going back over what we said we were going to do, considering possibly where we would like to go, and closing the gaps and finishing some things that loose ends. And so some themes, the rules are being retracted, and you could be trying to break down your own moral code, going through a lot of the stagnation to say, well, who's to say I can't do that? My mom always told me I was really terrible at this thing, but I feel like that's what I like. And I feel like if I went back and got a little language about it, if I got educated about it, I'd be really great. You may be going back over hard conversations that went ignored. or that have been ignored for quite some time. So be gentle with yourself. It's not your fault that these things are coming up again. No one is at fault. It's coming up again because it needs to be addressed. So go towards it. Try not to retract. You're going to be taking back your time and spending time uplifting yourself in some bits of solitude. So if you can step away, if you can get away for a couple days, a couple hours, it is of benefit for you to go inside and process. Mercury retrograde always makes us go inside. We start to retrace our steps. We start to go back through our conversations. We start cataloging and refiling things so that when Mercury goes in forward motion, we're more clear and we've processed where we are. And it's always good to do that. So every 3 months, we're here. So pay your dues, pay people what you owe them. And you may be going through trying to get your money back. Maybe people owe you some money, or you owing someone else money, but these are themes of the next 3 weeks. Revisiting conversations about what things look like to other people. So people might be confused about the changes that you're going through, and you might have to keep explaining to them what's happening because they're like, what the hell? I've not seen this from you before. You're changing, you're making me uncomfortable. And you need to just reassure them through more communication that everything is okay, that this is such and such. This is, I need to, conversations that may seem annoying because you know you've had them several times, but it's good to really delve into communication and give people the choice to show up. And when they're informed, they have the choice to show up. So just giving a little more language if you can. Addressing any addictions or reduction of substances is a big thing as we kind of attack the dark nights of the soul, as we start to consider, what it looks like to possibly have a life that is simpler, that is less dependent, and more empowering. And so substances can look like sugar, coffee, porn, hours of Instagram and Facebook scrolling, alcohol, drugs, smoking. The list goes on. No one is off limits when it comes to addressing and reducing the amount of stimulants and things that we rely upon every day. So however that looks for you, not everybody is dealing with major forms of crazy addiction, but maybe you are consuming too much of one thing or another that maybe you'd like to change, or maybe you don't. But readdressing that, getting clear about where you are in that, knowing when you do it, how much you do it, and when are the greatest times to do it, are all ways for you to be in control of that thing and for that thing to not be in control of you. Because your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't waste it trying to live up to someone else's standard of what that life is supposed to look like. This is really a time for you to formulate that for yourself. Let's go over, what do I no longer value? What do you no longer value? Now that you are out of the material possession phase, now that you're done buying presents and done receiving gifts or not, in any case, the materialism that we see in the world and the overconsumption of particular things can be nauseating by this time of year. So, really going back and saying, do I want to do that again? I'm not doing that again. Whatever happened this year, I'm not doing that again. I'm not overspending again. I'm not buying all those gifts again. I am donating a lot of what I received because I'm just tired. And so the last Capricorn moon, I believe, gave us the power to analyze this part of our lives. The future seems more uncertain right now because everyone is breaking rules and people are being prosecuted quickly when they break the rules. So we're starting to see that in lots of regimes, in lots of corporations. People are being exposed for indiscretions, and they're falling from grace. They're falling from their leadership roles. And when Capricorn is in leadership, Capricorn represents, the goat on the edge of the cliff. So, a lot of these goats falling over the cliff, and what's to stand before is something different. It leads to needing to clean up what others have left behind. So a lot of people might be taking on new roles and having to go through and realizing, oh my gosh, there is a lot more dysfunction than I thought. Remember that this time of year is when people change careers, they step down or step into higher roles. So no one is saying that, we'll move on to this here first. Okay, so keep in mind that there are new opportunities coming, right? Ones that you don't necessarily have to chase. They're just being made available by you breathing. Venus and Mercury conjunct before Mercury goes retrograde. So this was an important activation. Venus and Mercury touched each other, and then Mercury went back retrograde. And so what that really points to me is the monetary system, our values, our paychecks, our stability, our day-to-day function. And so now that you've identified what you no longer value as Venus leaves Capricorn, it's a great time to decide whether material possessions or the money you earn should entice you to stay where you are. What keeps you going back? And what the essence is trying to encapsulate is make the thing you do mean more. It has to mean more than a paycheck. Whether you still go every day, there's a reason why that you're going past just paying your bills. Does it give you meaning in your life? Does it satisfy you intellectually? Right? We're not going to continue to do menial tasks or to be the person on the bottom rung. We are asking for more responsibility. We are asking for more opportunity. And so in order to make more meaning, sometimes we need to intellectually level ourselves up. So it's going from the factory worker and just kind of putting the labels and the stickers on the product to actually touching the computer and actually printing those stickers, as an analogy. I wanted to add that I hope that we don't start making brash decisions without having a non-emotional response. It would be best if you became detached from anger and aggression to elevate your current situation. So do not quit because you're emotionally frustrated with the situation. Do not quit because, oh, my life isn't about a paycheck now. There are still bills to be paid, right? But what is important to notice is that there may be opportunities right where you are, and you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to burn any bridges. You don't have to actually do anything more than just apply yourself. And so if there are positions that you need to get into that require a test, that require you walking into someone's office and pledging that this is where I'm going to take this, will you give me a chance? That is what needs to happen. Educate yourself or be around communities who are talking about this so that you can receive education from others. You got to pick one. One is maybe free, and the other one you may have to invest a little bit. So stop investing in material possessions and invest in your education, invest in your higher mind. Okay. So happy New Year. This is financial change this year. This is pulling back. This is pulling way back. I wanted to point out that a lot of companies are starting to take back a lot of the money that they're spending on social media because they just can't afford it. And so those that might be influencers, those that might be making their money from the internet, such as Instagram through ad revenue, those types of things, you might see a change this year in the way that you earn. Personal story, I was once a freelancer, and from 2020 to 2022, things have drastically changed. People are not paying top dollar for writers. In fact, it's AI who is stepping in to take the bulk of what is written on the internet. And so finding real people, reputable sources for your education is important. Being discerning about the blogs that you read, being discerning about accounts that you're following. A lot of these are being ripped off. A lot of these are AI accounts. You need to start getting more well acquainted with the people that you get information from. Because change is near. And if you have people around you who are real, who are doing the real work, who are being authentic in their lives by proxy, you're going to want to do the same. So taking control of your earning power, walking into that office and saying, I have more to give. Walking into that office and asking for partnership. Walking into the office and saying, can we start a committee? Can we restructure something that feels really uncomfortable, that would really advance the way that we all work well together? This is a good time for that. This is a good year for that. Cutting the fat from budgets is a big thing. So, people who are in positions where they've, it's kind of a side thing that they're doing. It's not a major part of how their business runs. You might see a lot of that being cut, maybe some layoffs. And so in turn, I just wanted to say that, again, you need to communicate with others or educate yourself to become more valuable. And so you'll need to become creative with that. I wanted to show this Forbes the top workplace trends for 2023. And Glassdoor and Indeed is predicting to see a tight labor market with employers vying for top talent. So you can no longer just get by saying that you are a life coach. Maybe you might need to go back to school and get a certificate to actually maybe show some credentials. Surveillance. And so a lot of workplaces are keeping track of remote workers. They're wanting to make sure that they cut the fat and make sure that they're getting what they pay for. So you'll probably see an uptick in the way that you are monitored, as kind of people change their own rules. People might want to bring you back into the office. These are some of the themes, some of the things that you have been doing, you won't be able to do anymore. Important thing to remember. So that's the new year. Now we're moving into January 3rd, 2 days after our New Year's event. Moon and Mars will conjunct each other. This happened when the moon was full in Gemini a couple weeks ago. And so it's kind of reactivating these ideas of of what we really wanted our life to look like as we were preparing before Christmas. Christmas time was coming. Maybe we were feeling really optimistic because we got to share and be around people we loved, and it's an emotional time. But now that all of the people are gone and we're kind of left to be alone, what do we value now? And what this day represents is maybe a little emotionality. You're going to start to feel the changes as Mars moves from being retrograde to stationary. We're finding a little hectic in terms of getting your point across. Don't make any brash decisions this day. Give yourself a little more time, because you will maybe overshoot yourself and shoot yourself in the foot. So maybe not use this as the day, but instead just remember that it's coming, or remember that your plan is going to be there, because this is unshaky ground here, and might be just a day where unexpected things happen. And so just be aware and cautious in terms of paying attention while you're on the road, paying attention to what people say, and maybe being more quiet, even though it might be hard. We're going to be coming up in on the full moon in Cancer here, coming soon, January 6th. Just wanted to touch on that as you take this day to start planning some of your goals. The full moon in Cancer is going to be bringing some digestion in the changes that are coming, really getting a chance to sit with a lot of the stuff that you may have been ignoring the past couple days because of the holiday. Now you get to be with yourself and really think about it. We'll be seeing a lot of loss or restructure of leadership. Remember that there's always gain in losing. So whether you're losing a relationship, losing a job, whether you've lost a material possession, whether you're selling your home, reality shows itself and its true colors, and stability will emerge. So remember that there's always gain in losing something. When you lose something, a lot of time reality will be made very clear, because our reality is not as magically and sparkly. We've experienced loss, so we see things for the way that they really are. You'll see people's true colors. You'll go, for real? And within that, stability emerges, because there's a real footing when honesty is brought to the surface. So having good, healthy alliances, making good, healthy alliances is perfect. What's good for all is the best approach for making goals, not just for yourself, but what will this thing do to the people around me? If I stop doing such and such, or if I go towards this, I'll be a better father, better mother, better worker, better. What is that for you? And then getting rid of your stuff and or sharing it, making it communal property. That might be some things that you might be tinkering with as you get rid of and minimize your life. I have one future date coming January 13th. That is when Mars comes out of retrograde and we start moving forward. I'm going to be talking about this more next week as we talk about the full moon in Cancer a little more in depth. But for now, I just wanted to put out there that this is also a day of, I have this picture of this really mean doggy because it might come out like that. A lot of your anger and aggression towards unvisited situations might make you just use your words as just like, rah, 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 rah. And That's a possibility, and you may not be able to help it. Maybe just by knowing the date, you can know when to stay away. You can warn your family and your friends that, hey, this date's coming. Things are going to get a little crazy for a couple days. Just, maybe we need to put this conversation to the side. But this is a good day to lead with integrity and to really use your mind and not your emotions, even though the emotions are going to be high. So lastly, I just wanted to make sure that we touched on the finances. Like, I need to make sure that you understand that this is a really new financial year, and it would be wonderful if we all learned to kind of pull back the overconsumption of the things that we've been doing, whether it be, what those things are for you. They're going to change regardless. And so if you make the changes before you're forced into the change, it will feel like a triumph. You don't want to be a victim story, right? And so before things are taken from you, you should step into that role and say, I will be the one to say, I'm no longer doing this. I'm not subscribing to this anymore. I'm moving here to reduce my rent. I know my living situation is going to change. And so I've got to make steps in order to call and sell. Selling some of your things might be a good time right now. Things that you're not using, things that are not of value to you anymore, could be of value to someone else, and selling them for dirt cheap. In any case, those are the long and shorts of what we're walking into. Thank you for joining me and listening to the rambles. It is a lot of information, and where we've only talked about 1 week. Can you imagine the momentum of the rest of this year and what it has in store? It's starting us off at a really good foot, where we're seeing the reality of our situation, and we're like, I know exactly where to make adjustments. And don't deny those things. Don't deny the adjustments. Don't get too fearful, because the things that you're scared of, you've already most likely have surpassed many times over. And I bet if you looked in your Rolodex of memories, you've been in this very particular place before, yet maybe you were pushed to do it. And now you have the option instead of being pushed. There will be some of you that will have unexpected things happen, good, bad, or indifferent. Just know on the other side of that, there's always more empowerment. And sometimes painful situations really do harbor some great gifts. We just don't see them when they happen. Happy New Year to all of you. Many blessings along your journey. If you need a reading for this year, for this coming year, please visit my website. I would love to help you walk into a different form of leadership this year. I would love to talk about your goals and different strategies to make that happen. And if you're not there yet, just keep tuning in. Subscribe, like, share, whatever the thing is, and we'll be on this journey together learning. And so thank you. Many blessings, many loves, many, 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 many loves, and talk to you soon.